when something happens, we want to react at the spot. Alisa Zodi, Dahuya. I feel like the many that's where we go wrong, isn't it? All right. So now we want to go in the session for questions and answers. I am pretty sure we have questions that we want to be addressed. This is your time to shine.
I have a question. You mentioned you made a detour in order not to get comments. Could we have a role play how to handle such a situation? Maybe you would like to be the person who makes comments about the other person's butt, and maybe one of the speakers gives us an idea how one can react in such a situation. When you talk about my butt, I feel judged and I would like you to stop talking? Or is it better to say, when you talk about my butt, it seems you want, I'm not sure whether you say it to get attention from me or whether from your friends. What would be statements that you could make in such a situation without putting yourself in danger, but without suffering in silence? I think it would be really nice to get some guidance on this or to have a role play with that. I think Mercy also mentioned it, so maybe it's happening in Chichewa. If that could be taken up with a practical piece of advice, that would be, I think, really helpful for many here.
As we're thinking of the role play,
I can do it while seated. Okay. My name is Matthias Masaje. I would like to thank the two presenters for the insightful presentation. We really enjoyed it. Thank you. I have two questions. The two for the first presentation and the second for the last presentation. The first one is, we might be in a scenario that you mentioned about problems of low self-esteem, that people take advantages of us. So my question is, some scenarios that we do good to them and the people are taking advantages of us, how can we handle such situations? The second question is how to build yourself, and you mentioned about being an unapologetic person. You mentioned a bit of it. Can you maybe clarify with the vivid examples, such kind of like that? The second question for the second presentation is how to communicate nonviolent communication. You talked about it involves observation, feeling, unease, and request. You explained a bit of it. I would like to maybe practically, how can we do that? Because every time when we say like, how can we say no with excessive guilty? You talked something like that, and whenever you're trying maybe to say no to somebody, the one who welcomes the decision, it might feel like ndonyada kavena namba matama, something like that. So practically, how can we handle such things like that? Thank you.
the speakers, would you want to address?
Okay. So in regards to your question in terms of how to deal with people when they're treating you a certain way, as I said, it's important to create boundaries and principles that comes with your self-esteem. So in situations like that, as we learned from my friend here, is that you are supposed to communicate. I don't like the way that you're treating me. It makes me feel this way. Is it possible for us to handle things differently? Like, for example, they say maybe you're stupid, they call you stupid. Excuse me, I do not like being called stupid and it makes me feel horrible about myself. I would like that if you dislike something about me, you talk to me properly in a respectful manner. Something like that. Or if it's something that you just don't need at all, just say, you know what? I'm stepping away from this relationship because I do not feel like we work together as friends, and I do not feel like this is beneficial for either of us. There is no shame in saying that I do not belong to this group or want to associate with this person, because at the end of the day, if they're constantly bringing anything negative into your life, it doesn't help you. Surround yourself with people who bring positivity, who help you out, and do the same as a friend. If you're a good friend to others, other people will be good friends to you. And if they're not good friends to you, you have the freedom to say, I don't belong here. I'm going to look for something better for myself. So that's the way I would approach it.
All right. So I think there have been two questions allocated. So the first was about the comments that you're walking past somewhere and maybe some boys make a comment about your butt or something like this. How do you approach a situation like this? And so, of course, the first is to clearly state that you don't appreciate being called or having someone talk about your butt publicly like that, right? To clearly state that you don't appreciate it. And it helps if it is within a constitution or in an institution like this, because it means you're all under an authority, right? And so you also have the obligation to go and report, right? You have the obligation to go and report and say, okay, I am being harassed verbally, right? I'm being verbally harassed by this group of people. So you have the opportunity, the chance, or the access to authorities that can help in such scenarios or issues. I think that would be the first one. And then the second, you talked about, you said the observe and then feel the needs and then the feelings. With this one, perhaps I should take my laptop again. So you wanted a little more practical clarification, right? Okay, so to observe. So we're trying to establish an environment where we want to communicate non-violently. And oftentimes it happens when the discussion is intense and with so much pressure floating around. So the first thing is observation, and observation means to identify what actually happened. And so now we're talking facts, right? So we're not judging, but we're establishing facts. Instead of saying, inu majedwa inu. How about you say, inu mwafika 20 minutes after the meeting started? That is an undeniable fact, eh? Instead of giving in judgment, you should mention the facts because the facts are undeniable. And so you're creating a ground where no one else can bring in speculation. Everyone will say, yes, this happened. Yes, this happened. Yes, this happened. Now, once we have established to say, okay, you came 20 minutes late, what happens next? We talk about feelings. Because you came in 20 minutes late, I feel like you do not appreciate or observe my authority. That is something that is clear. So now we're giving a scenario of a boss talking to this employee. I feel like you don't appreciate my authority. Now that we've established that you came 20 minutes late, I feel that you have not observed my authority upon you, right? And so we can now establish a need, which then is the actual value, the underlying value. And the value is the observation of authority mundanes, right? So what is the authority saying and what should you do exactly? And how do you observe that? And then finally, a request. Now that you know, now that we've established the value, right, we request you to further on, moving on, observe the time that we have our meetings. So possibly, I hope that creates maybe sort of like an idea of how you can approach this way of establishing nonviolent communication. And I believe out of all of this, the foundation is the observation and the feeling. The observation sets the facts that are undeniable.
No one can say no, no one can say yes. So it's the fact, it's there, it's established. And then from there, the feelings. Again, I'd like to say this, a lot of arguments that I've observed, especially in Malawi, is that, it's my feelings up. Don't bring in feelings in this issue. No, it's, the feelings are valid. We're not eliminating that aspect. It should be there because it helps us to appreciate, wow, I think my actions have direct consequences to the way you feel, right? And so that is also important. And then we set in the underlying value, which is the substance itself, right? And then finally, we can give in a specific request. So the request should be actionable. So we can't just say, from now onwards, we are asking you to be a good employee. What is that? Right? So from now onwards, we're asking you to be punctual and on time. So that is a very specific and actionable request that you can give to whomever is on the other side of the conversation. I hope this addresses your question.
Sorry, I forgot to address the idea of being unapologetically yourself. I'm sorry. But when it comes to that concept, I'll share a personal story. So growing up, I was shy. Right now, you see me on this podium, I'm talkative. You think, oh no, she's fun, she's bubbly. No, I was that girl at the corner of the class by herself. I didn't talk to people. I was shy, I was timid, I was shaky on stage. But I had to kind of grow out of it and learn different skills, and even through life experiences, exploring who I am as a person, the things that I love to do, my hobbies, my family dynamic, I kind of had to discover myself. Who is Georgina Kanyanda? What do I stand by? What do I want in my life? The same stuff I basically explained in terms of self-esteem. I had to build myself up to the point where I can proudly say, this is who I am. Someone can say this, I say, that's not me. I know who I am. You can call me fat, I say I'm thick. You can call me dumb, I say I'm intelligent. Because I know my experiences, I know who I am, I know what I've been through, and I know how I'm building myself up. So I'm unapologetic because no one will fully understand your personal experiences. You do. And if you can stand on who you are and what you've built for yourself, you can live your life freely without being affected by negativity. So that's what it means to be unapologetically yourself, being who you are and standing tall and proud about it.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can take one or two more questions.
My name is Mayamigo Mapundi, and my focus is on the second presentation. My question is on the active listening. When she was presenting, Madam, she talked about active listening, and on that point, she came up with an example saying it can happen that the speaker is speaking and a listener can be taking notes while the speaker is speaking and while the listener is listening. And my question is, how can a speaker deal with this issue of, which we call spare brain time? The difference between the rate at which people speak and the much higher rate which the brain can process the language. How can he or she deals with that issue? My question is that.
I'm Benjamin Mame. My question is tackling the first presentation. Madam Georgina said about confidence. So nowadays, we have two problems. Young people are lacking confidence, but also there's the overconfidence that is coming up to affect everything. So a in terms of a person, he or she is overconfident, so he's believing that he can do it or make it, but he's carrying more weight that will affect her. So how can someone know good what I'm taking here is going to affect me, because the weight I'm carrying is more than what I'm expecting. So how can a young person solve the problem of overconfidence in terms of dealing with the challenges that he's facing by really knowing that this is the right way to do it, but this is not. Thank you.
All right. To address the issue about writing as a way of actively listening. So the writing is just just the top of the iceberg. Again, it's just there to try to not only show, it's also for the benefit of the listener. It depends on what type of conversation you're having. If the information is too much or too long, it helps to take some notes, right? But if you're just talking on a very small subject, the notes are not really necessary. So at the end of the day, it's up to judgment. You can be able to say, okay, this situation or the information that I'm getting right now requires me to write down something so that I can be able to remember. But if it's a very small, short conversation, then there is really no need. If you can retain the information that you're listening or hearing, then fine and good. No need to write down anything. But in a situation where the information is complex and it's so much, and you really need to write down to help you remember what this person said. So it really depends. It's be very flexible. Don't say, okay, I want to actively listen. I'm going to take a pen and a paper and write down everything. So just be flexible and make judgment to say, okay, according or based on how this environment is, I think I can just listen and it'll be fine. Or according to how much information is coming from the other party, I really do need to write something down to help me remember what I was saying, what they were saying. So it's flexible.
Hello. All right. So in regards to overconfidence, remember earlier I said it's good to be confident, but it's bad to be pompous and proud, and that humility is key. So what I meant by saying that is that you need to have introspection, self-awareness. What are my capabilities and what are my limitations? So when you are overconfident, you do take on way too many things. You think, yeah, I can handle it. And then the next day you find that you're overwhelmed and the weight is too much. So you can be confident, but you also need to understand your capabilities and your limitations respectfully. Arrange and organize yourself properly so that what you're involved in is enough for you to handle, but is beneficial at the end of the day. Do not overexpend yourself, otherwise you wind up, getting tired and overwhelmed. So it's a balancing act. You can be confident, but it balances out with humility as well. Know your boundaries, know your limitations, and work within what you can. So you use the two, right? Okay.
As we're closing this question and answer session, in an ideal world where this room would have been very full with people, we were supposed to split, where the guys would go upstairs and the girls would remain. But since we are not a lot, we have just skipped that. But the I Mind guys took papers. I'm pretty sure you guys wrote, so they can just address maybe a few, 5 maybe, of the things that we wrote, and you can address there, and then we can wrap up with time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is not going to be a very long session. Some of you had written some things that I'm going to read out, and hopefully the answers might also be within this very same room. The first thing that someone wrote was menstrual cycle deprives most girls' self-esteem around males. Menstrual cycle deprives most girls' self-esteem around males. Is this something that ladies, I hope we're not shy about this. Menstrual cycle deprives the confidence that a lot of girls have around males. I don't know whether anybody has a comment around this. This is an open session. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? Who would be willing to expound? Anybody? Mwina bodidi anyamara ndatsigana muno. Koma nkhani za menstruation, sometimes you see people mwina waziddaitsira.
Thank you so much. I think it's a real problem, and I think your last comment was body tilindea Zimbabwe. I think just as well, because at least us, the ladies, the female students, we know what it entails. But then our male counterparts, they have got no way of appreciating and understanding. So just as well that they are here to hear it. So it's really the issue of the practical aspect of it. You know, does it daira kapina, you know, and then what the shame around that. And over and above that, it's the different experiences around that time. It's not, some people, it's just a question of, you know, they don't feel anything. Others, it's an illness where they'll have the cramps, they'll have the headache, they have the moods, and then at the same time, they have to make sure that life goes on. And they can't miss classes, they have to do the assignments, so it's the balancing around that. The question is around men. I think that's also real. So the significance of this is that that's now how we need to communicate so that our male counterparts are able to appreciate. There was talk of empathy there, that if they don't know, how will they be able to show that empathy? So we need to communicate what that really is all about, so that at least we can now get that empathy, so that that worry from whoever raised that is somehow, we have a step where we're trying to take away that worry and address the issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know whether anybody else has a comment on that. Nkhani za menstruation and ladies. Muna bakufunika session where we have ladies only, you know. Mukajibinda go mata. But this is the real issue. It is happening out there. You know, some girls are missing classes because of menstruation. So I will proceed. I think you have rightly, responded to that. But I believe we do need a girls only, private, confidential session for that as well. I will read out the second question. What can someone do if he or she feels like nothing is working in terms of school, talking to friends or family, not being happy with anything? What can someone do if he or she feels like nothing is working in terms of school, talking to friends or family, not being happy with anything? If someone is down at this point, I'm pretty sure there's someone who is feeling down because this was written down by someone. What can they do? What advice would you give them? So I'll take two people who can respond to that, maybe from this side. What can someone do in that situation? Anybody from this side?
All right. On that scenario, I think the best way is to, as we have already learned about assertiveness, so he or she feels like nothing, but at this time, it might be high time to stand up, to define your value, to define yourself. But maybe to do it yourself is hard. That's where the counsels are out there, looking for us to approach them so that we can ask the better way to do with that. So when somebody is feeling maybe ignored, is feeling nothing, the best way is to consult somebody, because you might note that everything that you ask, or everything that you may be explained to do it, you cannot apply everything in your life, but at least you have a pinch, or you have a hint, or at least maybe I should do it, I can do this, I can do this. So the best way is to seek for solution ideas. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, madam. Oh, maybe we might start there and then come here.
All right. Actually, I feel like the remedy is within this room. Going back to the first presentation from iMind, I think it should be last but one slide. There where I think should be helpline where we can reach out to, and amongst the line, some of the counselors also here in the room. I think if there is really someone who is going through that, I think the best way is just to remain behind and speak to someone right away. Thanks.
Thank you. Powerful stuff. We love it.
All right. Okay. Just to add on what he's saying, I think for me, I would be like, what is not working? Because I think most of us we assume that things are not working because we are comparing ourselves with other people. So it's like you're seeing somebody's progress and then you're measuring with your progress. But then if you take a look at yourself and then you'll be like, I think I'm having this kind of things that someone doesn't have. So you can see that I would be comparing myself maybe with her. She's a lawyer, I'm a social worker. And then I'll be like, she's doing well in her film, I'm leaving my profession, comparing mine with her film, which is not quite good because I'll be like, I think I'm left behind. But she's living her purpose. What about my purpose? So I think most of the times we leave behind what we're supposed to be doing, but then we are focusing on what people are doing. So everyone's supposed to shine in their purpose. I cannot compare myself with an economist, an accountant. No, I need to shine on my own on my own film as well. So like even when it comes to mental health, it's like we practice gratitude. Sometimes we are focused on what we don't have, leaving behind what we do have. So it's a matter of highlighting that what do I have, like what am I able to do. So sometimes not about good things are not working, but it's because we're just trying to compare ourselves with other people, which is quite challenging and it's quite bad. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Ooh, so many wisdom coming from this room, eh?
Yes, I think you said something very important. What is not working? Nothing is working. Maybe it helps to really specify what is not working, to keep it to the facts. And there is a risk that we sometimes generalize when we are down and we see nothing when there is something. I could tell you at least 5 things that are working in your life, but if I tell them you won't see them. You have to discover that for yourself. But I think we are all alive here and breathing and have a house over our roof, roof over our heads. But what I think is important as well in the self-esteem debate is sometimes this goal setting and purpose can be intimidating. I think it is important that when we talk of self-love, it is this kind of look at yourself as if you would look at a little baby, where you just say, wow, life, existence, without having to prove anything, just by the fact that you are here, that you are a human living being, you are entitled to self-love. It is not your achievement or the goals that you have achieved that you said, I wanted to get a pass and now I have 2 failures and I have to resit for 2 exams. When she says be you, it is not just be your achievements. It's being yourself in your existence and having a loving attitude for yourself. And I think sometimes when bad things happen to us, I'm mentioning this because my son was attacked 2 days ago in South Africa. And I've realized how we start blaming ourselves. Why did I book this flight not 3 days earlier for him? Then it wouldn't have happened. When bad things happen to us, sometimes we use guilt to get control over a situation. But then this very same guilt makes us feel not loved by ourselves anymore, and where we judge ourselves. And I think that's where it's really important to be value free. Not only to say I'm so good or I'm so bad, but just say I am. And that's enough. I do enough, I work enough, I study enough, I am enough the way I am. I think that's really important for self-esteem, because we are in such a setting here in academia where we always push for goals and achievements, and we measure you, we permanently evaluate as lecturers your writings, but you are more than your writings. You are not only your writings, it's a part of you, but you exist and nobody is weeded, because nobody is weed in this room. You just may need to find a different open door for your destiny that we don't see yet. So I think that's important when you feel nothing is working in my life. There can be really hard times. I don't want to diminish that things can get really tough. And as you said, reach out. I think that's important as well, that you look for support.
Wow. So many things. Okay. So many things coming up. Yes. And then we'll go to Georgina.
I think the comment of reaching out, quite key. But also the other comment of nothing, but there's at least something. And I was just thinking that imagine assuming the person that wrote that is a student here, imagine the struggle of getting into university in Malawi at SoBES. There's so many out there that really envy that person. And so that's something. And indeed, life is always got those troubles, like Mrs. Sobengo just said, the experience that she just had. So there will be always those low points there and there. But I think getting that support is what's critical, because there is something that's a lot that's positive around that person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody has said such wonderful points. I'm going to speak from just the professional point of view. So when it comes to therapy, what I do prefer is following these methods. Looking at what's practical, how do you work on things on your own, how do you try to perceive things and your experiences, right? So all of these points are valid and actually really, really good. These are things that you can adapt. And even thank you for posing that question, because it's something that seems deep-seated, and maybe it may have felt silly to ask it, but this is the first step to finding help and to getting better. Opening yourself up to the potential of having conversations around this issue and listening to things that could positively impact your life. But even on the realistic end, if you have a hard time adapting these on your own, as a professional, I would say, talk to us. The thing about counselors, you can tell us literally anything under the sun. Things that you haven't told anyone in your life, you can tell us in full confidentiality, because we're here to support you in a safe environment where you can freely express yourself and give you the assistance that you need. On the other end, if you feel that you may have any significant mental health disorder, talk to a professional, get references. I'm not a person who likes to opt for use for things like antipsychotics or medications like that. That's usually the last thing. But the first thing you need to do is start that conversation. You started it here. Talk to a professional, find practical means, deal with everything that has brought you to this point where you're feeling that you're in that space, and let's work forward like that.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Yes, one last comment from Madam.
And you know, when we started and we had 3 people sitting in this room, I also felt nothing is working. And even if we are not many, but when I know that one person needed this session, now we are 20 people, and if I know that one of these 20 needed this afternoon today, then it did work.
Hallelujah. So maybe I'm not sure about the time, so I need someone to tell me on the time, because it might just keep on, going and going. I don't know, but okay, let me just read out this one more question. I think it's a question or a comment about presentations. I feel like this is important, especially for us who are studying. We probably will be required to do a lot of presentations. So there's a question here: presentations, nervousness during presentations, either class presentations or so. When one errors in presentation or becomes very nervous, he or she may start feeling like is not a good public speaker, which consequentially lowers their self-esteem. They will next time be afraid to present. Maybe, yeah, something about presentations, how when you present, maybe there's something that happens during that sessions, you make a certain error, you forget your words, you forget, your trend of thought goes into a different direction. In that situation, what can you do? How can you pick up the pieces? Let's just assume that I am at this point, I forget what I'm supposed to say, and I'm standing in front of you, and I don't know, start feeling nervous, and I want the ground to open up and swallow me alive. What can you do in that moment? How do you normally cope in situations like that? Is there anybody who has been in that scenario before and they would want to shed some light? I've been there. I've forgotten my words. I've forgotten my words. I don't know what I said for the rest of that presentation. I was saying something that was not audible. I was just saying things out of the blue. And when I went home, I felt like I was just in bed. I went home and laid down on my bed. I mean, I was just there. I don't know what happened after that, but the nerves were real. So I don't know how you guys cope with situations like that. How do you do it? I know lecturers here. We have the lecturers here who are always standing in front of people. Eh? What is the secret?
Okay, my name is Habe Blair. I'm studying Bachelor of Laws. So I understand that we have this idea that everyone is a public speaker in mind. We all have confidence in mind before speaking. So when you are presenting, in fact, because nervousness sometimes is inevitable. So you have just to encourage yourself or tell yourself that these are fellow people. They are creatures like I myself. So when you are presenting, you just focus for your content, because what affects most of us is we used to give more than what we prepared. Consequently, we end up speaking unnecessary stuff contrary from what we prepared. So that increases our nervousness. But we can't deny the fact that nervousness is sometimes inevitable. We just have to plan very carefully. Thank you very much. Of course, I've been also nervous in some presentations, but we can't deny the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Anyone else? In good when we're doing presentations, don't look at people. Don't look at them. I'm just looking on your foreheads right now, like, okay. Anyone else? I know you were standing in front here. What is the secret? Like, how do you cope with having to come in front of people and present? What do you do to make it easy on yourself?
Well, for me, it's never something you get used to. I think each crowd gives me nerves, but I think giving giving the crowd a chance to speak for me works very well because it levels the ground for me. It shows that sometimes when you give a chance to your audience to speak, you can see that they're nervous and like, we're the same. And so it's that um, leveling that ground for me helps me to say, okay, we're all at the same base. We're not expecting something out of this world from each other and just people communicating. And so that is a very good, for me, a coping mechanism that has really worked. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Oh, at the back. And then we'll come right here.
Okay, let me start by giving a Bible verse. I would say Mlaliki 4 verse 6. Amagamba kunena kuti usayankhule kwathuko ndi moyo wako. Meaning to say that whenever you want to talk, just talk less. People will hear that thing. So you won't be troubled. You won't be saying, okay, I'm not a good speaker. No. If you just speak less, whatever you have brought to people, just give them that. Don't talk much. If there's something that you would like to add, but not much. I think that's the only solution according to the Bible.
Tikulowa mu uthenga eti. Mawu achilimbikitso.
No, thank you for that question. Actually, I've spoken at conferences, locally, internationally, but when I stood there, I'm sure if you noticed, I think the first 2 lines, I stumbled a bit. So I think it happens. And if you check, it happens even to the best. Barack Obama has actually acknowledged that almost each time that he goes, he'll have the nerves. Michelle, and then you see those are like renowned public speakers. And there's so many renowned public speakers that would say that. And then there's the, some who say, okay, sometimes it will be obvious, sometimes it won't be obvious. Sometimes others are able to hide it. And then sometimes others will pick afterwards. But I think TS's contribution, I think, are quite key. And but they say that I think the best is a preparation. If you prepare very well, it's very unlikely. You can have a bumpy start, but then eventually you pick it up. And I recall a friend, somebody that, you know, in terms of speaking, went around to so many, you know, national, international speeches, Europe, Africa, Americas, where she'd gone. And this other time she just called me laughing. And then she was like, you know what, Emily? Preparation is everything. And I was like, what? She's like, Sha, I can't even tell you. She was just laughing. I was at this conference. I mean, I don't know. I think I was too confident. I didn't prepare well. I'm telling you, it was a flop. You know, so yeah, thank you.
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. But yeah, preparation is extremely important because at least it gives you an outline of what you're going to do. But what I normally do, prepare meticulously, know what I'm going to do. In terms of public speaking, of course, there are lines on the slides, but as you notice, I kind of go free form because I want to understand what I'm going to say. I don't just smack things over there and be like, yeah, that's the definition. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to talk about it. I don't do that. You need to know what you're presenting on. But I'm not going to say I haven't been nervous before. If you're nervous about something, it means it's important enough to you. So it's perfectly normal. But I can tell you, even in music, because I am also a musician, there have been times where you forget a lyric or your voice decides to go sideways. And you feel that feeling of, wow, this is horrible. But you still have to carry on, right? So the idea is fake it till you make it. Make the best of the situation and have fun with it, even if you make mistakes. The more you enjoy the experience, the more it comes out, and the more your audience can kind of experience it with you. So every tumble, it's an opportunity for you to learn, okay, how do I do things in future? And should I stumble again, how am I going to proceed within that situation? So yeah.
And another thing, when you're nervous and you get shaky hands and you know that you're going to be nervous, then don't take a paper, take a croc slip book or something hard, because then the shaking isn't so obvious. And I think also remember, nobody thinks as much about you as you do. Those people who make stupid remarks are usually those people who need to feed their self-esteem by putting other people down. So they just overinflate their appearance, so you don't need to take them serious. And the other ones who are mature enough in the room not to make a comment, they know how it feels. And nobody apart from you thinks after the presentation how the presentation did go. So I think that one tends to judge oneself too much, and that the expectations that one has for oneself are making life even more difficult than the expectations that others have in the room. And an old tip from my teacher, who was super scary, and then when he was the one who was feeding people, and he was shouting at students. Afterwards, I realized, okay, he tried to stop smoking, and then he was angry because he didn't have the cigarettes in good time. Later on, I had a private conversation with him, and he told me that he repeated a class twice. But he seemed to be the most judgmental teacher, and he just said, well, some people need more time to mature and learn. There's no shame in that. And everybody was scared of this teacher. And he also told me, oh, was public speaking? Just imagine everyone is just a cabbage. So when I feel nervous, then I thought, okay, there's only cabbages around me.
Thank you so much. We are going to take one last comment, one last reflection from the lady in red. Yes.
All right, so I think I'm just going to give a tip of what I do when I'm in front, like I'm nervous. So here's what happens. Most of the times when I'm in front, I look at everyone as my friend. So years back, even now, when I go to new places, I try to be friendly. I just try to make friendship with everyone. So I smile, greet, do that, do this, so that when that time comes, I'm in front. I don't, like she said, I don't have to look at everyone like cabbages, but I have to look at them like friends. Yeah, so yes. So I have to look at everyone as my friend so that each time I give out the speech, and maybe I want to give an example, I don't have to be like, you, that one. No. Yeah, so you, my friend, what about this? What about that? How did it go? What are you going to say about it? So, yeah, I just have to look at everyone as my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are all friends here. That's why we were sharing freely like we are doing. So thank you so much. For us, we don't want to overstretch this. I feel like we've had some good conversations, you know. We have all shared what we do, which is very important. I took out from there self-love, you know, don't compare yourself with someone else. Make sure that you know yourself, so self-awareness. Make sure that you preparing to fail, preparing, you know, failing to prepare, preparing to fail. Yeah, I think that's the saying. All sorts of good stuff that came out from there. I hope that you will be able to utilize those things in your daily life. At the end of the day, if everything else is failing, I think the most crucial thing that was underlined, seek help. Help is available. So if you feel like you cannot handle it, if you feel like things are getting too much, you can't carry the burden by yourself, help is available. So let me end right there and hand it over to the amazing Raina. Is it Raina? Raina? I mean, I'm trying to pronounce the name right. Thank you.
I genuinely wish we had more time because the session has started becoming more interesting at the end, isn't it? I also had one contribution, but I think I was too shy to say. But it's also good to have the mentality that I learned from my mistakes. So when you do a mistake today, you go home and you're like, okay, next time I'll remember to say my name. Like today, I actually forgot to introduce myself. So next time you see me here, the first thing I'll do is say my name. Now, can I please call Senior Counsel to come and give the closing remarks?
Thank you so much. It's Rina. Raina. Thank you so much, Raina. I was making a few notes when the presentations were made. I will not take much of your time, but I just want to highlight a few things in the closing remarks. But I think the key closing remark, it's that came from Mrs. Mfutso Bengo, to say that we expected quite a number of people, but it's mid-sem exams. But even the numbers that are here, with what we got, it's really wow. The presenters, both sessions, the first session, the second session, it was really, it was a talk, but training also. So the people that are here, those that have been able to join online, I think we've really, really benefited and really been trained. Starting from Mercy, she started with, you know, telling us about herself, and then all the three presenters. What we've learned from them is that it's really a learning process, it's a journey, and then that it's not a question that we're born with. We can learn to be affirmative, we can learn to have self-esteem, and the key to all of this is that what they've been saying is that it's something that's doable. And the important thing is that they've told us how we can do it. And when I was listening, coming to an end, I was like, you know what? I think we need to do this again because it's really, really so beneficial. So I will not do the summaries of the notes that I made because we were all here, we understood, and I believe that a time will come when we'll have this experience again, and so that we learn more from these three really experts that have taught us today, because it's really been teaching. So thank you so much for all that you've given the audience today. And maybe to close, I also try to quote two quotations that I had, and I'm trying to end with quotations from Nelson Mandela and Eleanor Roosevelt. And with Nelson Mandela reminded us that there is no position to be found playing small in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. So may today's discussion help each one of us to build the confidence and to value ourselves, the courage to speak with clarity and with wisdom, to respect the dignity and voice, set boundaries, but also respect others, seek help that's out there if when we think that we need that. And Elena said that she actually challenged us to say no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So I think without your consent, it's the fact that, you know, today we've been given tips on how we can actually be, you know, gain that self-esteem and be that assertive. So I think let's learn from this and then try to really practice and then engage further, because I don't believe just today is enough. I believe that, and actually one of the speakers said that they don't want to pretend as if it's something that you can just pluck. It's something that we have to learn. And then I think let's be open to learn more about what we've learned today. So thank you so much. And there are gifts that we're presenting to our speakers. So Mrs. Ifa Fusopengo could please come forward so that we can get the Okay, so thank you. So that's the end. That's the end of our session. And thank you all for coming. And thank you those online that were listening to these presentations. Thank you. And thanks, a big thank you to our esteemed speakers. And let's give them a final round of applause. Thanks.
May I